What do you make of taking your kids out of school for a holiday? New research suggests 2 million parents will be risking it this term. They say they have to go off-peak as they can't afford to take their children away during the holidays. Now, we've got an example for you. We looked at some EasyJet flights from London to Tenerife in the October half term versus outside of the half term versus school time. So just take a look at this, right? So this is outside of half term when everybody is at school, right? £705.92. That's for mum and dad, presumably, parents and 2 kids, 4 people. That's when they're supposed to be in school. Let's have a look at the next one. I mean, brace yourself. I have to say, the exact same holiday, right? The exact same flight, same 4 people, same destination, same bits actually in the flight, £3,163.92. Unbelievable. The government encourages schools to issue fines when children are missing for 5 days or more. Last year, the fee was up from £60 to £80. However, if parents are prosecuted and brought to court because of unauthorised absences, they can face fines of up to £2,500. Now, I'm going to ask you first, Carolyn. I mean, you understand why people take the risk. Do you think it's worth risking it? Well,
no, confession time here. When my kids were young and in school, I took them out to take them on holidays because we couldn't afford, and that was just caravan holidays. We couldn't afford to take them in school holidays. So I understand why parents do it. I'm not telling parents they should do it, and they wasn't fines when I done it. But I do worry that we are outpricing the opportunity for families to take kids on holidays, and I have done it. So I can say no more other than I've done it.
You, MP, Deputy Leader of Welsh Labour, admit it here first on Channel 5. But, you know, Christian, you hear what Carolyn says. I mean, that is a staggering difference.
I'm sorry, I'm going to be harsh, and I say this as someone who doesn't have kids, so I'm sure it's easier to theorise about it than when it comes to the practical reality. But children's education is more important than a holiday, and a holiday is not a human right. And especially after COVID, children are already well behind, both in the curriculum and also in their reading abilities, their arithmetic, all the rest of it. And I think it's wrong. And I wouldn't encourage it. And if anything, I think the fine needs to be hiked to prevent it. There's no point having a fine of £80 when, as you point out, they're saving thousands by doing it.
Well, it's not just the education, but also teachers that make a point. The thing is, when a kid's off school, it takes extra resources and extra time in the classroom to help those kids catch up. Carolyn, were you worried about that when you took your kids out?
We're going back a long time ago, but no. I wanted my kids to have a holiday, you know, and maybe our family circumstances are different. I hadn't long lost a child when we were doing it, and that was part of the reason why we done it. So to give myself a defence, but.
So would you scrap the fines full stop? I mean,
I think I would be working with the holiday companies to find a way of making it more affordable to take kids away during school holidays. That's the issue.
I think my policy solution is that school holidays across the country need to be staggered. That's the problem, that all the school holidays tend to happen in the same fortnight, so travel companies know exactly when to jack up the price. If schools in, say, Birmingham went on half term a month earlier than schools in Yorkshire, then they wouldn't be able to price fix and price gouge as much as they are. Now, that is a solution, and I don't think there's necessarily a reason why we couldn't do that, but I'm not in favour of, say, regulating the industry because, you know, the economy's already over-regulated.
What do you make of this point? You know, nearly a fifth of parents report they can't afford to take their kids on holiday during the actual holiday time. So what that means is that only the most privileged get a chance to go on holiday, which is Carolyn's point. A total of £41 million have actually been paid in these fines. And oftentimes it's subject... Well, so it's not working.
It's not working.
But it's also subject to the whims of the headmaster or the head teacher, whether or not to let the kid go in the first place.
Well, I think I always wrote to the school. I wrote to the head and said, I'm doing this. I was quite upfront about it, and I never had a problem with it. But I did tell the school I was doing it.
You know, it's an interesting thing as well that people say about travel for kids, is that it's not all, to your point, learning maths and English in 1 week, and often kids can catch up. Yeah. But, you know, a number of people who have called and certainly written into us say things like, well, I took my kids out of school, I took them to Egypt for a week, for example. I see you rolling your eyes, but we had an experience where the family were alongside each other. It was nourishing, it was learning about different cultures. We'd never be able to do that. And that's a type of emotional intelligence and range.
And subliminal learning.
That they would learn. You seem sceptical.
It sounds like liberal nonsense to me. I think, you know, they can learn about Egypt on a PowerPoint or in a history lesson. They don't need to travel there during term time. And I just think, I really do, I'm sorry, I think it is unfair on the kids. Children, we've still got such a sort of long COVID effect when it comes to children's attainment and education in schools. We can't be letting them go on holiday. And it's just, as I say, it's not a human right.
Well, to add to your point...
I went on holiday to Wales.
Well, that's
that was my...
You seem upset about that. I mean...
No, I loved it. But, you know, you don't need to go to Tenerife. You don't need to go to Egypt.
But no matter where you go, it's more expensive. If you book a caravan holiday...
It's about margins, isn't it? You can't tax.
But if you book a caravan holiday in August, it's a lot more expensive than if you book a caravan holiday in...
Just to be clear about missing school, I mean, Karen, you say there's no real-world effects, but the government data shows that in 2019, primary school children in Key Stage 2 who did not achieve expected standards in reading, writing and maths missed an average of 4 more days per school than those who were achieving the right standard. So there obviously is some sort of connection. I wonder whether you think there is, Rose, in Cambridge. Do you think it's okay to take your kids out of school, or do you think it's right that they should continue with these fines?
I certainly don't think they lose anything by being taken out of school. Teachers are, to my mind, the most hypocritical bunch of people I have ever encountered. Schooling is terribly important unless they've got the wrong piece of school uniform in which they're sent home. They've got a bit of pink flash on their socks or shoes, they're sent home, or the wrong haircut. I have a caravan near the coast. Every day there are school parties of children there. Now, obviously, they're with teachers. Why can't the parents take them?
Well, I think you're talking about educational enrichment trips, which are slightly different, and they're part of the curriculum where there'll be broader learning. But I'm going to pick you up on this one, Rose, the idea of teachers being hypocritical, the idea that they don't work in nearly every single case incredibly hard, and how challenging that job is, underpaid and underthanked. Part of the things that you're talking about, presumably, is to have a discipline in the school. Why do you say teachers are hypocritical?
Because they're saying virtually that unless you're wearing the right uniform, you're incapable of learning. Well, that is absolute nonsense.
Well, perhaps a conversation for a different day. But thanks for calling there, Rose in Cambridgeshire. But certainly you've got a strong view about teachers. I wonder whether or not you've actually taught in a school. I just asked that rhetorically. Natasha in London, what's your view?
Hi, good morning. So my view is that I absolutely agree that you should be able to take children out of school during term time. We recently did it this year, and we weren't fined because it was only for 4 days. But, you know, the teacher was absolutely happy for us to do it. She could see that our daughter, needed a break. And during that time that we were away, my daughter she went from not being able to put her head under the water in a swimming pool to being able to swim half a width.
Would you have taken her if you had to pay the fine?
I would have, yeah, because when we booked the holiday, it was... we looked to go a week later, a week earlier, because it was over the Easter, and it would have been over £4,500.
I mean, that's extraordinary. So it would have been, unreachable, right, Natasha?
Yeah, and I've got 2 small children, so, we wouldn't have been able to, we're trying to get married this year. There's so many other costs of living that we're trying to pay for. We wouldn't have been able to take them on that holiday. You know, they love going to the buffet and trying new food, so it's definitely worth it.
Well, thanks, Natasha. Stephen, you're in Buckinghamshire. You know, one of the suggestions that's been put forward by Christian and Carolyn says that I'd be talking to the travel companies to find a way of making it cheaper. Christian's saying, look, we need to stagger school holidays so it's cheaper for everybody, not take kids out of school. What do you think?
I think exactly that, but the thing I think is the system doesn't work for everybody, and looking into it, you can take your children out of school for 4 days and not get fined. So you could do that 3 or 4 times a year and have no problem with it. My situation is my children are both have special needs, which goes back to your last section as well. And because they're special needs, although my daughter's year 11, in a normal school she would have finished end of this month, roughly next month, they're still in school in July. So I've chosen to take them out. They're only missing 2 days, or she's only missing 2 days, but the school is still saying I'm not allowed to do that. I'm like, but technically she would not be in school.
I see.
Now I'm not going to get fined because it's up to 5 days, but it doesn't work for everybody. And equally, the reason I'm doing it, I'm only taking her out the last week, the last week before the summer holidays, so we're only a week early. But it's going to be quieter for my children, so. You know, but
and presumably you say that there's a benefit for your kids, for you to have that time alongside them on holiday with each other, and there's an enrichment to it. They learn a great deal more than just sort of perhaps the hoop jumping they learn in school, especially with special needs. Thanks for calling, Stephen in Buckinghamshire. Anne in Suffolk. Before I come back to the panel, this is exercising a lot of people. I have to say most people are saying, look, these fines are nonsense. We should just get rid of them. Do you think that's right?
I think I've got a sort of a different viewpoint in as much as all my family live in Australia. So for me, it's not a holiday, but it's the same thing. I don't necessarily agree with taking your children out of school to go to Spain or whatever, because, and it's not a cost implication. It's more, you know, to me, you cut your cloth anyway, to what you can afford. But I just feel that when you've only got family a long, long way away, you should have special dispensation just occasionally. I mean, the last time was 7 years ago. Right,
for longer trips. In order for people.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's about connecting with your relatives over there. If your child has no cousins or uncles and aunts here, just once in a while to be able to go over there. But you can't go over for 2 weeks.
No, I hear you, and you know, a lot of people out there will say to you in response, so come back to our panel, well, the thing is that's what technology's for. You've got Skype and all of that sort of thing, so why should you have to take your kids out of school? Look, we should put the other side of it. There's a reason why these fines were put there in the first place, which is because it was very disruptive to school. It was very disruptive to young learners. It was very challenging for school leaders when parents were taking kids out of school. Also, the other thing that has to be put is it's just not fair to the parents that are doing the right thing and paying the £4,000.
But also, you know, I feel actually sorry for teachers. I think they get a rotten deal and they work very hard. And you think, well, it's all very well you taking your kid out of school for a week, but if that means that the teacher then has to prepare special catch-up lessons, they have to do it in their lunch break, they have to do it after school to catch your kid up because you took them on holiday, I think it's incredibly rude and disrespectful on the teacher, actually.
Yeah, well, lots of people agree with you. It's very sort of interesting whether or not you take your kids out of school. Either way, just to be clear, there are fines if you do it for Definitely. 5 days or more. And for goodness sake, be in touch with your schools. And to the caller that said teachers are rubbish and hypocritical, I think, you know, there are moments where I can look into the camera and say you don't know what you're talking about.